is going to be an absolute treat for you. I'm very honored to be hosting a very special fireside chat with a very remarkable individual. I'm going to tell you a bit about him, but first we're going to welcome him on stage. Please give a huge South Summit round of applause for Ryan Nance. Thank you. Welcome, Ryan. Great to have you here. So before we start, I'm just going to tell our folks streaming live, many thousands of people streaming live, many hundreds of people here at La Nave in Madrid. My name's Oisin Lunny. It's a pleasure to be here and introduce our next very special guest, Ryan Nance. He is a former NFL player and Super Bowl winner. He is the chairman of the Ryan Nance Foundation, which over the past 15 years has facilitated its student service program, whose curriculum is centered around teaching high school students the power of giving. It is fantastic work. He's currently the managing director of Next Play Capital. He founded the VC firm in 2015 to give his community the opportunity to invest with the brightest minds in tech. Next Play Capital, or MPC, is a Silicon Valley-based investment platform focused on investing in top-tier venture funds and companies. It's a minority-owned firm founded in 2014 with over $250 million under management. NPC leverages an investment thesis centered around specific manager selection designed to maximize risk-adjusted returns. The combination of a disciplined and experienced management team, a diverse and strategic investor base, and an overall value-add mentality allows NPC access to top-tier venture managers, including Accel, Greylock, Andreessen Horowitz, Forerunner Ventures, First Round, Lightspeed Venture Partners, True Ventures, and Union Square. Wow. So these relationships also drive specialized access into some of these funds' top-performing portfolio companies, including ByteDance, Exabeam, Flexiport, Guild Education, Hims, Impossible Foods, Peloton, Rubrik, and ThoughtSpot. Ryan is on the advisory board of DocuSign and Tonal, in addition to being part of the Aspen Institute as a Henry Crown Fellow. Oh my goodness, that's quite the CV. And if that is not enough, I'm thrilled to tell you that he's absolutely one of a kind. His father was also an NFL player and Hall of Famer who also won the Super Bowl like Ryan, and they are the only father-son duo in human history to have both won the Super Bowl. How about that? Can we just get another round of applause for Ryan Nance, please? That's just incredible. Absolutely amazing. So, I think it's worth introducing you properly because it's an amazing CV.
That was very long. That was not needed. But I will say, my father likes to remind me he has 4 Super Bowls and I only have 1. So it's a very competitive family.
Very good. I see where you get the drive from. That's brilliant. Brilliant. So, talk to us a bit about, transitioning from an NFL player to a VC. Were there any transferable skills that you were able to bring from the field into the boardroom? And did you receive any resistance from the sector that you had to break through?
That's what all NFL players do, right? They transition into VC and become investors. And the reality is that that's not the case. Fortunately for me, I grew up around Silicon Valley. My father played for the 49ers during the 80s and the 90s, and he got a chance to meet the men and women that laid the foundation of Silicon Valley and some of the most inspiring individuals that I've ever had a chance to be around. He too started investing with them, and so we drank the Kool-Aid pretty quickly as a family. Nice. When I played in the NFL, I spent my off seasons trying to learn the business, and I spent a lot of time in Silicon Valley. I spent a lot of time as an investor. When I was finished playing, I thought I was going to go work at the family business. At that time, my father had a firm called HRJ Capital. They had about $2.5 billion under management. They sold to a European company, a conglomerate called an asset manager called Capital Dynamics. So I couldn't go work there. So I went to a family office and spent some time as an investor and an analyst. That got a little boring, and a friend of mine was in business school, called me, and he said, Ryan, I really would love for you to help me with this idea and this startup. What do you think? And I said, sounds like a great idea. I was young, naive, single, didn't have a lot of responsibilities, so we decided to co-found a business together. And we built a mobile video platform that enabled athletes to create HD videos from their phone and send it to television in 15 seconds. People might say video, that doesn't seem like that novel of an idea, but in 2010, there were very few people using video at that time, especially ubiquitously across all different platforms and in the media world. Slaved away at that company for 4.5 years. We were then acquired by Fox. And at that time, so many individuals in my community, and especially former teammates and other athletes, would come to me and say, Ryan, I'm investing in this idea. What do you think? Tell me if you would invest with me, help me with this opportunity. And the reality is it was garbage. And the sad thing to see so many men and women put their money into startups and investments that had very little chance of making them money was really heartbreaking to me. And so we decided as a family to start Next Play Capital to give our community of individuals the opportunity to invest with the best investors in the world, and hopefully at times we could find ways to get into some of the most transformational companies in the world too.
Totally, and your CV really does speak for itself. The results are incredible. And you're both a VC and an LP, a limited partner, for folks tuning in, which are investors in VC funds. So how did you go about getting access to Silicon Valley top deals and VC firms who are so famously hard to penetrate? How did you break through?
Yeah, it's a great question. And when you think about it, the VC landscape, there are thousands of VCs, especially just in the US, but globally, I mean, there are thousands. We have, I think, 1,200 in our database as a firm now. But the reality is the delta between the top quartile and even the top decile funds and everybody else is pretty massive. And the reality is if you're really going to play in the game and be an allocator and invest in the space, you really want to get access to those firms. But the sad truth is when you really look at the returns and where they come from, even just in the past 5 years, it's roughly 90% of all the venture returns have come from 5% of the venture funds.
Wow.
The vast majority of those happen to be in the US. I think it's starting to expand. It's one of the reasons why I'm here today and here this week, and to be at the summit is to learn the landscape here. But we wanted to give our investors the opportunity to get into those funds. How do we do that? We had to make our dollar look a little bit different. As they were turning away hundreds of millions of dollars and people begging to be in their funds, we needed to find ways to make our dollar look different. And the way that we did that was 3 ways. One, we have established relationships already and friendships that we've been in the Valley as investors for a long period of time. We've been investing with Sequoia and Benchmark and Excel and Greylock and these firms as a family. So we had meaningful relationships so we could build on that. The second thing we had to do is create an LP base that was truly differentiated. And what do I mean by that? One of the things we worked really hard is we brought an entire community of athletes and influencers and leaders and CEOs across the entire landscape to bring value to the GPs and their founders when they made an investment. And so that community of influencers is extremely valuable. It's really hard to get in front of Patrick Mahomes or Steph Curry or any Reese Witherspoon or any of the other individuals that are part of our community. But our ability to aggregate them and bring them to our GPs made us look different. And then the third was really, how do we listen to the needs, right? What are the things that GPs really needed help with? What were areas that their founders needed support with? And how can we show up? How can we spend time building those relationships and building those friendships and find ways to bring them value consistently over and over again? And so it has been a relentless effort, but all of that has allowed us to be able to invest with arguably some of the best venture funds in the entire world. We have about 25 in our portfolio, and so really grateful for the work we do as a team to execute around that philosophy.
Fantastic. So a lot of passion, a lot of hard work, a lot of kind of unique perspective and the connections that you can bring to the table. How do you differentiate your offer as a VC to founders? What value add can you bring to the table?
Yeah,
what's that mix?
The terminology value add gets thrown around pretty ubiquitously and widely across venture. It's just something that you say when you end a conversation, how can I help you, or what can I do for you? It's just a polite thing to do. I think my wife actually gave me the best analogy, though, of what value add really means. And she said, Ryan, if I called you and said, can you bring me home flowers? And you brought me home roses and you brought me home my favorite color, that would be very nice. And that's a really nice treat, and I'd be really excited. But if I never called you and you brought me home flowers and you brought me home my favorite color, that's value add. And so your ability to anticipate what somebody wants or needs in advance of them asking and delivering on that is really what value add is. And so again, it's the idea of spending time with somebody so that you can understand where they have pain points or where there's friction or challenges and leaning in. One of the things that we've also worked really hard, a lot of founders are brilliant. I mean, just technically far superior than most people that I've ever been around, and definitely a lot smarter than I am. But it doesn't mean that all of them have been a part of teams and understand how to communicate and understand how to deal with failure and understand how to rally their troops. And so our ability to lean in and connect with the founder on a personal level and help them in those gray areas, because oftentimes being a founder is really lonely and you don't know who to turn to. We play a sounding board and sometimes a coach in those situations because that's our background. And those are the strengths and assets that we can bring to the table. So those are areas that we think a lot about in terms of value add.
Absolutely. Great advice from your wife there. A wise lady by all accounts. That's brilliant.
She is a wise lady.
Fantastic, fantastic. And so we've heard about the different LP structure, your celebrities, the athletes in the fund, how you're differentiating as a VC to founders. But I'm sure a lot of folks in the audience would be very curious to know, what's your own personal investment strategy? Are there any sectors that are kind of hot, any geographies, any technologies that you are looking at yourself?
Yeah, it's another great question. Clearly, our background comes from the world of sports, media, and entertainment. I think we're still in the early days of how technology is helping to transform all of those sectors. It's an area that we like to look at, we get excited about. The three areas that we spend a lot of time as a firm, we love fintech, we love enterprise SaaS, we love consumer, and specifically within consumer, we think about this terminology of human optimization. How are we thinking about our lives personally in terms of mentally, physically, spiritually, and how is technology allowing us to pursue those efforts in a more meaningful way and to be better at trying to live a more optimal life. And then obviously professionally, in this world now where we're all working from all over the place, what tools and resources are helping companies achieve success at scale as we work distributed, and how are we protecting the industry around that?
Fantastic. And so, you've talked about, technology with purpose there, the kind of the big picture, the kind of higher purpose of technology. Talk to us a bit about the Ryan Nance Foundation and your wonderful work, because that's so impressive, and it really is, giving something back to the world. That's incredible. How can people get involved?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it blends into what we do as a fund.
Sure.
And part of this idea of a philosophy that we believe in is this idea of the power of giving. And through the power of giving, we believe that if we can teach young minds about the responsibility and really the idea that there are so many needs around them, that to lift their head up and to not think about themselves all the time, that there's really unique power and meaningful purpose in trying to find ways to support other people. And so I wrote a curriculum that teaches young high school juniors and seniors the principles of the power of giving, so that hopefully by the end of the program, they're able to ask or answer one question that we ask at the beginning of the program and at the end of the program. When's the last time you asked a family member or a friend, how can I help you? And that's a basic question, and it seems really easy, but it's really hard to do on a consistent basis over and over again. And so that philosophy, and that DNA resonates through all the things that we do as an organization, as a foundation, and all the things we do professionally with our firm at Next Play Capitals, finding the ways to ask that question and then deliver on it with actually having no strings attached. And in my life, when you give, you get way more back. And time again, it's doing that. And so we're very thankful that we've had now the foundation for 15 years, and we've been able to invest and change a lot of lives through that.
Outstanding. Well, listen, thank you so much for everything you do with the Ryan Nance Foundation. Thank you for all the wonderful investment work you're doing. You're opening up the world of investment to many more people, and people that don't usually are not able to get through. So it's just fantastic work, and it's what the industry needs. And if anybody wants to get in touch with Next Play Capital or the Ryan Nance Foundation, about it.
Yeah, Next Play Capital, it's easy to look us up. I mean, obviously we're all online these days. I'm sure I'm on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me there. It's one of the things that I think that's really exciting, as I mentioned, in terms of the reason why I'm here, is spending more and more time looking at the energy here that I see at the summit. What Maria's created here is truly phenomenal.
Absolutely.
I mean, one, it's a very attractive crowd. It's a very energetic crowd, but yet there's still a passion and a conviction to create innovation and create great change and do something bigger than just for self. And that's really the heart of what technology is all about. And for me, being here is something that I'm excited about. Next Play, how do we continue to expand our reach globally?
Fantastic. And what a perfect way to wrap up. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a huge round of applause for Ryan Nance. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.